Hey, True Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. It's November 19th, 2016. Today is Jodie Foster's 54th birthday. And the reason that's significant is because of the relationship with Jodie Foster and John Hinckley, the man who tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan on March 30th, 1981. We're going to get to John Hinckley and the assassination attempt because just yesterday, for seemingly no reason, CNN was showing the news footage of the Ronald Reagan assassination attempt. Just yesterday, November 18th, the day before Jodie Foster's birthday. And if you don't know the story, John Hinckley supposedly tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan to impress Jodie Foster. He had a crush on Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster, the first Hollywood movie she was in was Taxi Driver, a movie that's about a potential political assassination against a president. That's the movie starring Robert De Niro, that's based on the character Arthur Bremer, who shot George Wallace on the campaign trail in 1972, 44 years ago. So this headline right here about Jodie Foster, this is from July 30th of this year. She was saying she was horrified because John Hinckley was let out of the mental asylum he's been in since the assassination attempt. On July 27th, it was mainstream news that John Hinckley was being released from prison. And I did a video on this at the time it happened. The date of the news was a date with 50 numerology, Donald equals 50, America equals 50. Earlier in the year, I showed how the shooting propaganda hoax out of Kalamazoo, Michigan, the Uber driver named Jason, who went on a shooting spree, I showed how that was a propaganda deception story that was a tribute to the movie Taxi Driver, where De Niro's character drove a checker cab, which were made in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where that hoax happened. And I showed how that story was a tribute to the assassination attempt on George Wallace by Arthur Bremer and more. And I showed the parallels to Donald Trump. Then this year, on August 13th, Robert De Niro made mainstream headlines comparing Donald Trump to the crazy character from Taxi Driver. You know, in February, I said, look, this is a tribute from the movie to the news to Donald Trump, back to George Wallace, a piece of history, a man running for president that was a bigot, seen as a white supremacist, 1972, 44 years ago. 44, a number that has a lot to do with assassinations and killing. Anyway, I pointed out that the day of this news was a date with 50 numerology. Donald Trump had just turned 70 years old at the time. When you write out 70, it sums to 110 like president. He's now the president-elect. We're going to watch this CNN clip and how they just go into the Reagan assassination attempt footage seemingly out of nowhere from yesterday, November 18th. We're going to watch that. The clip is from March 30th, 1981. That's a date with 133 numerology. White House equals 133. Government equals 133. Go back to my videos from May 2015 when they were showing that Donald Trump was the 133rd richest man in the world. There were a lot of news stories with Donald Trump and 133. Got a video documenting that. I was saying then, you know, maybe they'll put this guy in the White House. I didn't think they would do it, but they did. And they coded it all along the way. It was also a date with a life lesson number of 52. That's the same as the numerology of the date JFK was assassinated. Date with a life lesson number of 52. White House equals 52. Government 52. The date of the assassination attempt on Reagan, date with 114 numerology. President of the United States equals 114. Trump card equals 114. Think about Donald Trump, elected during the time of the hit TV show House of Cards about the White House. Talk about predictive programming. March 30th, 3:30. Date with 33 numerology. False flag 33. Reagan was 33rd governor of California. James Brady was an actor who pretended to be paralyzed his entire life after the shooting. He was murdered on Obama's birthday 2 years ago. On August 4th, James Brady was murdered. A news story that quietly swept by. Ronald Reagan in Gematria sums to 110 like president as well. You know, made for Manchurian character. Hollywood, 33rd governor, president. His vice president was the head of CIA. Who do you think was running that administration? So anyway, let's watch the news from yesterday and wrap this up. Check this out.
He's not president yet, and I find it really interesting that you want the American people to be angry at a man who has not been sworn into office yet for just wanting to go and have dinner with his family. And yes, he did alert Secret Service to it. So, he's not president. After he becomes president, sworn into office, then fine. He's open up to all of your criticism. But right now, President Obama is still in office. I also want to bring this idea.
Wait, Scotty, before that, do you think people want? You think that the people sitting here want the American people to be angry at him?
Well, it seems if you listen to the last 24 hours coverage of Stategate, it seems like a lot of these reporters are upset that they were not able to get, I guess, reservations at the same restaurant to find out if Mr. Trump still likes his steaks.
Scotty, you know that's not true. You know that's not. Scotty, that's not what it was about. What if when Ronald Reagan, when there was the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan's life, part of the thing that helped was to have footage from the press there. You saw what happened to the president.
But he was the president. That's the key. He is the.
Have you guys noticed just in this short few seconds they've shown so far, this old Reagan footage assassination attempt, just how much orange was in the screen, stationed all over it, even on an umbrella swirling around in front of you? Something about orange and blue. But the color orange in gematria sums to 33, just like false flag, Reagan the 33rd governor. This happened on March 30th. His 69th day of being president.
There are a couple of.
That is certainly a valid point that he is not the president. It's also a valid point that he has only been the president-elect for a week.
And here's something else to notice. Again, this is the footage of the Ronald Reagan assassination attempt. Look at this guy in the suit holding a machine gun. 80s. You ever watch movies from the 80s? Some of them are so violent, it's crazy. Anyway, what's interesting, in history books, they record that the assassination attempt happened at 2:27 in the afternoon. And all throughout history, they stamp the number 227 on assassinations. I just want you to notice that the time on the clock, when this supposedly went down, it says 2:25. Everywhere you'll read about this, you'll see that it was written it happened at 2:27. Shows you they like to slightly edit the history books just to get in their numbers. When you divide 22 by 7, you get the number for pi, having to do with cycles and circles, very special number.
It is a third valid point that all the press has talked about is this for the last 20.
Michael Wolff. So anyway, look at how they just went into that. Talking about Trump, and then all of a sudden they wanted to bring up the Reagan assassination attempts. I want to double check something real quick, because I've always trusted the history books take that it was his 69th day office. I just want to make sure it really was. Because they always write that it happened at 2:27, but there it was right on the clock in front of us. It was 2:25. I don't think the news usually has the time off. So he was inaugurated January 20th, 1981. The assassination attempt happened March 30th, 1981. 69 days later, you know what? That's also a span of 70 days. So it happened 69 days after he took office, truly his 70th day in office. And think about Donald Trump, who's 70 right now. Again, when you write out 70, just in case you're new here, this is gematria. You can use this Writing the Beast calculator. If you go to this drop-down menu and choose English ordinal, it's the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, all the way up to Z is 26. Ronald Reagan, 110. President, 110. 70, 110. Ronald Reagan's 70th day, Donald Trump 70 years old. All sorts of predictive programming for a Donald Trump assassination. This Hinckley story on the date numerology with Donald, Actors, Trump, Reagan, both actors, Hollywood. Something else here, Truth Seeker. Till next time.